What is up, everyone? Welcome back. It's Brandon from Tattooing 101, and we are in week 2 of the Back to Basics line work series. In week 1, we covered the basics of line work and learned how to hold our machines effectively. Also, the 3 points of contact and how to find the depth that you need to tattoo lines effectively. So if you haven't watched last week's video, I highly recommend that you check that out, so you're able to start out at the beginning and then build from there. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can keep up to date with the next video coming out for the series. Now that you understand the basics of line work, for week 2 we're going to be jumping in to some actual practice drills to help you tattoo lines. Now we're going to start off nice and simple with some short lines, medium, and then long. You might be thinking this is pretty mundane and boring, but I promise being able to tattoo straight lines perfectly every single time will help you build the fundamentals that you need to be able to do an actual tattoo on human skin. And then from there, you'll be able to tattoo any design with ease. We're going to be starting off on the short line first. Now we'll be putting everything that you learned in week 1 into practice. So I'm going to be using a 9-round liner, the Bishop Packer machine, and I'm going to be running this on 8 volts. Once again, this is how you hold your machine. Middle finger under the cartridge, have my 2 bottom fingers to slide across the fake skin, and I'm holding it at about a 70-degree angle. Now we're starting out on the line with my 3 points of contact. Now before I do this line, I like to put a little bit of Vaseline or Green Glide on the bottom of my hand right here, so you could see. So that way I slide across the fake skin a whole lot easier. So now we could line up our needle. You can see I'm letting it hang out so I can see exactly where my needles are going. And I'm going to set 2 millimeters into the skin and then just slide across to make my line. Now, normally what you would do is have your hand stretching out the fake skin, this one sliding across, and your elbow tucked in. I'm not going to stretch out the skin because it'll completely block the cameras and you'll not be able to see anything that I'm doing. So now we'll go through. Setting our depth, then just sliding, keeping our hand speed consistent, and then tapering out at the end. Right like that. Simple, straight, and clean, just like that. Now let's do it. We'll just finish off these on the row. So with this, you don't have to worry about ink running out or anything like that. On longer lines, you do have to worry about that. So you'll just practice sliding your hand, setting your needle at 2 millimeters, tapering in and out right like this. And in the last video, I showed you exactly how to tell if you're going 2 millimeters into the fake skin. You could cut it afterwards to make sure. Now that we've done the short line, we're going to move on to the medium lines. You want to make sure you're dipping into your ink anytime you're doing another line, because you don't want to run out of ink in your actual cartridge, because it won't pull a clean line, because you won't have enough ink in your reservoir to be able to put it into the skin. Now when it comes to doing your lines, you could either pull or push a line. Some artists will have preferences on which they prefer, but I prefer to pull my lines, right like this. So I'm coming straight back towards me, sliding across the fake skin to be able to pull a clean line. There are some situations that would require you to have to push a line or pull a line, depending on the area that you're doing and also where the client's sitting. So these are things that you want to understand to practice with both. But for right here, I'm going to pull all the lines just to give you an idea exactly how to do them. We'll go over these other techniques in future videos. At this point, the biggest thing we're focusing on is just getting used to sliding your hand along the fake skin so you don't have to break them up. Now, for some reason, if you're first starting out and you go to do a line and you start to get a little bit shaky, what you could do is just lift up, clean the area so you're able to see exactly where your lines are. And then what you want to do is taper in, starting back on the line a little bit. Taper in, finish off your line, and taper out. But you want to be able to get used to just being able to pull a line in a single pass so that you don't have to worry about matching them up, because it could be a really hard thing, especially if you're using small needle groupings like 3-round liners. So just getting used to sliding across the skin right like that will greatly improve your tattooing. So sometimes you're in a position to where you absolutely have to push a line. Now, if you were to do that, like in the last video in this series, all you have to do is change your grip from here to here, and then all you do is set your angle and push your line right like this. So that's exactly how you would do it. Also, sometimes you'll find yourself in a position to where, based on your design, the angle you have to pull the line is not favorable to you. So that's when you need to be able to push instead of pull. Great, so now before we move on to long lines, I just want to find out how you're feeling about this line work series so far. Is there anything specific that you would like me to cover? Just let me know in the comments below and I'll check them out. All right, now moving on to long lines. So this is the area that's really important that you have the sliding ability down, because if not, you're going to have issues getting caught on the fake skin or having to break this into 3 sections, which could be really hard. So putting some of that green glide on the bottom of my hand so I could slide really nicely across the fake skin without it getting caught is going to help out a ton with these lines. And also with these lines right here, you might find it a little bit difficult to tattoo all in one go. So you might need to break it down into 2 parts. Now, most people would think that you can just stop halfway and then dip your needle in some ink and then start right off where you left out. Some people think that you could just start tattooing a line, go through, and then just completely stop and start off where you left out. What's going to happen is that at the very end of your line, you could see a little bump right here. So that's from just lifting up instead of tapering out. So anytime you get to a start of a line, I'm tapering in, setting my depth, and then tapering out. So I'm able to go back in without it having that hard stopping point. Because with this being here, and I start back tapering into my line, going through with my line, and clean it off, you're gonna see this little area right here that's bulging out because of just lifting that up. So anytime you wanna make sure if you're doing it in 2 passes, you're tapering in right like this. So now we'll practice on tapering with this next one right here. So I'm tapering in, setting my depth, then I'm just sliding across the fake skin. And then tapering out at the end. Now for this last one, we're going to break it into 2 sections to show you exactly how to taper in and out of a line. So we're starting out, taper in. Let's say we're starting to get uncomfortable towards the end, so taper out right like that. Clean it off so we're able to see perfectly where we started and stopped. Starting back on the line a little bit, taper in. Setting our depth, going through with our line, then taper out. You can see it leads to a much smoother line whenever you are tapering in and out, and it won't leave this little ball area on your lines. So the biggest thing with line work is making sure you don't see little areas to where you started off and picked up. Some areas to where if there's a line super long, you will have to break it up because you're going to run out of actual ink. So understanding the tapering process will help you get smooth lines the whole way through without being able to tell exactly where you started and stopped. You could use this simple drill to practice your lines until they are all consistent. And in week 3, we're going to be doing some more drills. But in this one, we're going to show you how to connect your lines with some polygon drills. So stay tuned, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.